Taoiseach, notwithstanding the U-turn you were forced into on travel and the PUP, I don't think the government really gets the anger that is being felt by the economic victims of COVID-19 measures. I just think you don't get it. As I have tried to explain to you and other government spokespeople for weeks now, there are particular cohorts of people who have been savaged, decimated, put on their knees because of the economic consequences of public health measures, and they are still likely to face the devastation of their livelihoods for the foreseeable future through no fault of their own. They are taxi drivers, people in arts, music, live entertainment, the crew that stand behind those things, and you might add to that list people in the bar sector. But you have completely shafted those people who endured the same hardship as everybody else, but who still face it. Okay, let's start with the taxi drivers. The taxi drivers are now being whipped back to work because of the cuts you have imposed on the PUP and the new conditions. But their work, the work available to them, is about 20% of what was available pre-COVID, because their livelihoods are linked to tourism, linked to music, linked to live entertainment, linked to theatres, and so on. Okay? And they will be for the foreseeable future. What have you given them in the bill last night, or in the bill that's coming before the Dáil today, which I'm trying to get an amendment in, but I can't get it in apparently? Okay? Which is, did you give them access to the wage subsidy, a step-down payment the same way as you've given to companies? Answer, no. You've given the taxi drivers nothing. Did you give them access to the Restart grant? Answer, no. Did you give them things that wouldn't even cost you anything, like the 10-year expiry date on their vehicles being extended to 15 years? Answer, no. You've given the taxi drivers nothing. You shafted them. Okay, and they are suffering through no fault of their own. Arts workers the same. The musicians shafted. Don't get the grants, don't get an income subsidy, and now they've had their PUP payments cut. What are you doing for these people who are suffering and likely to suffer as a result of the economic fallout of measures your government imposed? Answer so far, nothing. It's not fair, it's not right, and I'm telling you one thing, Taoiseach, you are storing up a big revolt among these sectors in society unless this week you come out and offer some support, because they are angry. A lot of them are people who used to vote for Fianna Fáil. And I'm telling you, they are angry. There is going to be protests unless you do something. You are driving a coach and horses through the principle that we're all in it together, because you've stabbed these groups in the back unless you give them some support. And so far, they've got nothing. In the Dáil here for the last few weeks, when I've asked this, you and spokespeople have whittled on saying they would get some of the business grants. Their reps rang this morning, social protection and business, asked, can we get any of the grants? Answer, no. No. Why are you refusing them? Why are companies getting these grants and a taxi driver can't get them? It's not fair.
First of all, in relation to Deputy Boyd Barrett's points, in relation to both the taxi drivers, the pub sector, entertainment and arts, obviously the pandemic unemployment payment covered a lot of those sectors, as indeed did the wage subsidy did for quite a number of pubs. And in fact, that was an enormous intervention by the state, which just gets dismissed, ignored. And you use language like people were shafted. I mean, 1.1 million people were on state supports at one stage during this COVID-19, because it's been an extraordinary and unprecedented pandemic which has negatively impacted on people and on jobs. And I get it. Of course, it's been devastating for many sectors. And particularly the collapse of the travel trade and tourism and people travelling in and out of the country has had a huge impact on hospitality and on tourism in general, and then consequently on taxi drivers, pubs and the arts and entertainment more generally. I understand that. And I think we will be continuing to, and prior to this government coming in, the interim government did provide substantial funding to the arts in relation to Deborah McDonald's point, in response to that campaign by the National Campaign for the Arts at the time. And in the July stimulus provision has been made for the arts in respect, for example, a new drama TV, a new drama fund, TV drama fund of 3 million and 2 million for a sound and vision fund. But more importantly, I've spoken to Minister Catherine Martin in relation to this and the need to create employment opportunities for artists in sectors where they may be underrepresented. In education, for example, we should increase the number of artists in residence in schools, or give greater support to theatre and education companies, and create new employment alternatives, and also performance supports for artists in terms of online and so on. All of that will never replace, what was there prior to COVID. But our objective will be to work with the artistic community to try and create meaningful supports for them. And we understand that as a specific group, they do require a specific response, given the nature of the employment and the fact that the COVID-19 has really dramatically impacted on their way of life, and particularly in terms of audiences that many artists depend on. We're very aware of this, and I think the various supports from the employment wage subsidy to the pandemic unemployment payments have made a telling impact, an important impact. They'll never replace what was there for many, many people, but at least they've helped people to get through this period. And other measures then in terms of the restart grant, for example, applies to those who are paying rates. There are challenges in terms of once you go outside that, how do you structure that in terms of how do you validate that and so on, and how can we give additional supports to those that don't have rateable premises and so on. There are other taxation measures which may be of assistance to taxi owners and taxi drivers that may be of assistance. In some cases they may not. And then there's a combination of measures there, if you add it all up, can be of assistance. In terms of and so I'm very conscious of the need to work on these specific sectors. And also more broadly, there will be continued focus on childcare sector and on the hospitality and tourism sector in general. And obviously in relation to pubs, we had to take the decision we took to defer the reopening of phase 4. We will now, obviously that will come up for examination in the coming weeks in terms of the 10th of August, and we'll be guided by public health advice there. And I've met with the publicans' representative bodies last week in relation to that. So I'm acutely aware of the very difficult situation that many publicans around the country, of course, yeah.
Sorry, it's the mic on. Taoiseach, I'm asking you in advance of the bill tonight. Now, I know it's late, but we've the bill tonight, that the government will amend it to make the income subsidies that are available to employers available to the self-employed in sectors such as the arts, music, live entertainment and taxi drivers. Because they're having their PUP payments cut, but unlike other people that you're trying to encourage to maintain the relationship with employment, there is no subsidy, step-down subsidy for them. They want to work, but there's no work available for them, or there's very little work.
Can we hear the
right? So we're asking, I'm just asking this because it's very important, Ciaran. Yeah. Would you please give them an income subsidy scheme? A step-down scheme.
Deputy, you don't have to repeat yourself. You've asked the question. Taoiseach, can you help?
To be fair to Taoiseach has looked at all of that, and in the context of the July stimulus, we all collectively looked at this. It's not as simple or as easy as the Deputy has put forward there. There are real issues in terms of the administration of that and the validation of that across the economy. But I take the general point the Deputy has made. And we will continue to work on this in terms of how supports can meaningfully be given to people in the situations that you have outlined. I'm not so sure whether the legislation, the amendment to tonight's legislation is the appropriate vehicle or mechanism to do that, but because the broader question is, for example, the restart grant and the application of the restart grant. I know that, and there's a reason in terms of, I mean, it's very straightforward in terms of businesses that are valued for rates purposes, but there were very significant logistical difficulties with it.